So I'm here with Shanelle today, and Shanelle and I have been talking quite a lot recently at Grand Union Finance HQ, all about different strategies where you can earn a little bit more money, because buy-to-lets are suffering a lot at the moment. Lots of issues that we're having with down valuations on rentals, rental calculators being particularly difficult. I know we've both got cases with that at the moment. So we thought we would get in front of the camera and talk a little bit about HMOs.
Yes.
Because they're taking a bit of a battering in other ways, but we both agree that they're still good strategies for this year.
I love them. I think they're the way forward. I love talking about them. I think they're the future, to be honest, in property investing.
They are the future.
They are. A lot of people love the multi-unit freehold blocks, which I get. They're safer. There's less turnover in sort of the tenancies and stuff. But I love HMOs. I think people my age or younger, they're going to struggle to get on the property market, on the property ladder, and even they're going to struggle to rent because the rents are being pushed up from everything else that's going on in the world. And why wouldn't you? It's a bit more social to be sharing a house, and it cuts your costs. 600 quid all in maybe in some areas. I think that's a decent amount. You've got enough then disposable income to go and live your life and do whatever. I think it's the worst, isn't it? When all your money gets sunk out by all your bills and all that, you're left with no money at the end of the month. So why would you not just lower your outgoings?
Exactly. And I think a lot of this conversation that you and I have stems from the fact that we do think there's going to be a much higher demand for HMO this year than there has been in recent years, because less disposable income, as you say. Another thing I actually read recently, completely sort of random little tangent, but they're saying as well that they think lots of couples are going to split up this year because of financial problems. So then they're not going to necessarily be able to go and afford a one-bedroom flat. They might have to go into HMOs and stuff. So there's going to be a higher demand for HMO, I think, in 2023, and probably even going forward as well. So there's less availability of them as well because of Article 4 and stuff like that coming in. So if you can get hold of one, you can do a conversion, etc., it's going to be good. The difference I'm finding as well between the cost of the mortgages for HMO, they're not massively different from limited company standard buy-to-let mortgage rates as well. So given the increased, gross rent you're going to get, we know that there's additional bills. A lot of the time you're paying for your utilities. Some councils are making you pay individual council tax per room. But even taking some of that stuff into account, there's still a great opportunity, I think.
100%. No, I agree. And I had a client actually who was quite surprised by the rates I was quoting, because it's not too dissimilar to the single let property products. And it's a way of increasing your cash flow. And getting that super rent in, charging individual rent per room.
And you know what? This actually goes back a little bit to, I talk to a lot of my clients about strategy, and a lot of the time you'll be on, going on a course, getting your mentorship, doing all this stuff, watching a lot of videos online as well. And a lot of people talk, a lot of these mentors, a lot of these courses teach you to start slow and build your portfolio. That all sounds absolutely perfectly normal. And then suddenly you go, but hang on a second. At the beginning of the process, when you're trying to build a portfolio and cash flow is so important to allowing you to do that. Imagine you've got 30, 40 grand and you put it into a BRR deal and you get 10 or 15 of that back. So you're literally then just left with one buy-to-let property that you've refinanced. You've got 15 grand of your money back. You've then got to try and save up another 25 grand or whatever it is to get back to a deposit level to do another one. And while you're doing that, you're getting £200 a month.
200 quid a month, literally, it's not life-changing, is it?
It's not life-changing. and to that extent, BRR is not really working in the traditional sense at the moment. So as an alternative to that, if you are trying to build a portfolio, get into the higher cash flowing strategies early, HMO being a perfect one. SA is obviously, we're not necessarily going to go into a lot of detail on that right now, but SA is another one. Or, just starting some kind of business, even if you don't have the money to start buying properties that you're going to convert to HMO,
Yeah.
rent to rent is still a really, really good strategy, or property management, as I call it.
Yeah, that's it.
So
well, that's the thing. When you're investing in property and you're just starting out, you're being taught that you need to get your cash flow, because most of these people want to leave their jobs quite quickly. And so if you're able to get these types of HMOs, and we always say try and walk before you run and all that. But why wouldn't you, when the HMO lending criteria, there is scope there for you to get straight into it if you're in a position and you fit the criteria. So it allows you then to leave your job quicker than you would if you were doing it the traditional slower rate. And you can then go on to doing even more deals, because you've got the time then.
Exactly.
It's all about the freedom.
I always talk to my clients about at the start of the process, when it is slower, no matter what type of strategy you're going for, it's always slower to start with than it will be 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is, especially if you, and I believe every investor should be thinking this way, especially if you're not taking money out of your property business to start with and you're letting the money grow, so you're keeping it in there, so you're finding your next deposit.
Yeah.
The property investing is actually quite simple.
Yeah.
All you need is your next deposit and your next deal. And if you've got those just coming in, then you can just keep growing and growing and growing. Exactly. Obviously that's harder to start with, but if you're not taking money out of your portfolio, with every property you add, you're reducing the time that you need to get your next deposit. Yeah. So you get your next deposit, and that's going to be quicker anyway. So if you've got your HMO and instead of making £200 net a month, you're making £900 net a month. Yeah. Well, it doesn't take a genius to work out that you're going to get to the point where you've got 20, 30, 40 grand for your next deposit pretty quickly. Yeah. And the thing is as well, there are, as you say, to start with, it's going to be a little bit harder. The lending options for your first one are not going to be as good as your lending options for your third or your fourth or your fifth one. Yeah. And if you are a first-time buyer, first-time landlord, and you want to do it as an HMO, your lending options are going to be very, very small. But if you think about it, if you're buying a C3 classified property, which obviously is residential, and you're converting it into a C4 classified small HMO, then actually you're using a bridging loan to get it anyway. And again, you're not going to be getting the best bridging in the world. No, but you still can get a bridge much easier than you're going to get a mortgage. And as long as we know that, 6 months down the line, you've got 3, 4, 5 lenders that could potentially look at you because they see you then as not a first-time buyer anymore. There are some that will. Yeah. And if we can line that up, that alleviates that issue anyway. And for me, that's the best way of doing it anyway. Buying a ready-made HMO is, great if you've got a big source of income coming in from elsewhere. Yeah. But if not, realistically, converting it is the way forward. And actually, the bigger you make these HMOs, as you start doing it, the more the income grows. And I think the income grows more really as a comparison in terms of a yield. It's not an exact science, but certainly from looking at deals that I am with my clients, if you look at the yield based on an 8-bedroom HMO versus a 6-bedroom HMO, the difference percentage-wise in the value of the property versus the yield, it does go up higher. Do you know what I mean? Okay, there might be a ceiling on that, and different areas will be different, but once you've got your feet under the table and you understand the process, you understand the concept, and potentially you've built a company that means that you're the aftercare, the looking after the tenants, looking after the letting those rooms out and stuff is being taken care of by either a company you've built or a company that you're employing to do that. Once you get used to it, looking at converting C4 classified HMOs into sui generis larger HMOs where you can rent out to 7, 8, 9, 10 people. Yeah. The extra work that goes into that is, again, it is extra work. Yeah. But I think it's worth it in terms of the returns that you're going to get.
100%. And I think then it comes down to how you're making that experience for your tenants as well. Because it's not just about getting this deal converting it into as many rooms as you can and making as much money as you can. You really want to make that experience for your tenants worth staying, because you want your attention. You don't want your void periods, especially when you've got 7 beds to fill, 8 beds to fill. It's about creating a community type of thing, and making sure that everyone gets on together. And you've really got to pick your tenants right there if you've got so many people living there. But yeah, it's all about standards and making sure that it's a nice place to live. And I think if you get it right and you've got that sort of about you as a property investor, that you want to create nice homes for these people, then you can't go far wrong in just making sure that they stay as long as you can.
And don't forget as well, again, this is what I talk to my clients about really frequently, is this isn't forever. You know, nobody wants to be running, most people I speak to, I'm sure it's the same for you, the long-term objective is passive income.
Yeah.
It's, you know, less earning more for less time. HMOs, all these high cash flowing strategies, they are not going to give you that. But it's all about thinking strategically and thinking more long term. Where do I want to be? Right, I want to get to a point where I've got a portfolio that's really passive. I don't have to think about it very much. I don't have to put much time and effort into it. Okay, great. That doesn't mean you need to start building that portfolio now. You start building a portfolio that cash flows. Do the HMOs with a plan that once you reach a certain income, you can start either using that income just to buy to let properties instead, which are much more passive. Okay, nothing's ever 100% passive, but much more passive, much less turnover of tenants, etc. Maybe you even use that money, like you say, to buy multi-unit freehold blocks that you then rent out to a social housing provider or a housing association or something like that. Really passive type strategies, but you have to start with the higher cash flowing strategy to start with. And it's like I said, it's a very design sort of led strategy. You're not necessarily doing now what it will look like, and you can always convert those HMOs back into family homes at some point in the future as well. It's not like you need to sell them. Just convert them back at some point in the future.
100%. It's flexible, isn't it? And diverse. And I guess back to what you were saying there about how you're strategizing your property journey from start to finish. Like, that's our job, isn't it? When we get these new investors come to us from the start and they're like, oh, well, these are my hopes and dreams, this is what I want to do. And it's like, okay, well, how can we get you there? And I had a client, I'm thinking back now to a client who did have a lot of cash and had a decent income, and they wanted to just literally get going HMO straight away. And we were able to put them on a bridge. They got their 6-month experience and a property under their belt, and we put them on the bridge. They were then able to exit onto a term lender that was going to give them a mortgage to be able to carry on with that property. And it's like, if you know the right ways of dealing with this with the different lenders' criteria and being strategic and creative with the way that you're financing your deals, it becomes quite easy actually to get into these more advanced strategies quicker. I love it. I love HMO strategy.
It's just, I think a lot of the time it's down to people getting a bit scared by potentially like getting bridging finance. That's obviously something that everyone's always seems to be scared of. Then you've got the fact that maybe you're concerned a bit about the exit, a bit about a lot of the regulations and all that kind of stuff. But as you say, if you do get it right, then how you can make those figures work, they just stack up so much better than on a BRR. If you just think of it in terms of purchase price, cost of conversion works, GDV, gross development value, and then rental income off the back of it, the difference with a let's say on a standard BRR, you're paying 15 grand to do a renovation. And on a HMO, it's costing you 30. So it's double the cost. But you will see much more than that in the value that you're adding to the property as well. There are we know there are a few lenders that potentially, as long as they are very, very much all en suite or very much HMOs, even if they're 5 or 6 beds, sometimes we can even get commercial yield-based valuations.
That's it.
Which again increases that value. Look, it's always a little bit of a concern. You don't want to over leverage yourself, but when you're growing your portfolio, you want to be putting out as much as you can. Those are the deals where we're actually seeing the money in, money out deals.
Yeah,
the deals where people are able to pull out all the money they've put in. In certain instances, depends on the type of deal that you're doing as well. There are lenders out there that will actually do a refurbishment bridge as well. We can even look at development finance for certain HMO conversions, depending on what the cost of the works is going to be. Anything below 50 grand is probably not worth it. But the definitely the bridging, the refurbishment bridges, 85% loan to value instead of 75%. 10% different in how much you need to put in. It makes a big difference as well in terms of how you can get started. So there's plenty of things. I was actually I was at the Baker Street property meet last week, and one of the winners of one of the property investor awards last year was there doing a presentation about how she actually goes about building or has gone about building her HMO portfolio. And it was really, really clever. I'm lucky, I've seen quite a lot of my clients do a similar thing. But what I was saying earlier on about the sort of the sui generis classification that you want to try and get to, if you can, to really make your portfolio, really tick over, is that she was saying something that a lot of people get stressed out about, which was getting planning permission to go from C3 straight to sui generis is going to be really, really difficult. So she knows that she can get permitted development to take it from a 4-bedroom house to a 6-bedroom HMO. And so she'll do that, but then she will apply for planning. She might be, a lot of the time she's doing extensions and stuff like that, so she'll get the planning permission to do that anyway. But then once she's got the bit developed, once that property is classed as C4 and it is, you're allowed to put 6 people in there, allowed to have six bedrooms. It's so much easier then to go and get planning permission to get an extra, 3-4 people in that property, because it's things like, how much rubbish they're going to be using, how many car parking spaces they're going to be using. And actually, if you're going, well, 6 people are allowed to live in this property right now. So all we're asking for is 2 extra car parking spaces.
What's another one? What's another 2?
It's not a huge difference. So it's a good strategy to do that too.
I agree, And
like I said.
I have, in talks that I've been to, I've seen that it's all about, as a property investor, I know we've spoken about how good it is to do HMOs, but you have got to consider the risks. There is heightened risks. But as a property investor, one thing I've learned from looking at other property investors is how you mitigate those risks. And I think a really successful property investor, they're not, rocket scientists, but they're the right people that are able to pull the right people, the right professionals together that know what to do. And if you pull all of them together, you're going to get a good project, and you've mitigated your risk. You've accounted for any down valuations, or what your GDV is going to be, your end value, because you've had those right people advising you on what this project is going to look like when it comes to the end. Exactly.
And we know this firsthand in terms of what we do with our clients is, we check a lot of stuff. When they give us figures, we don't just accept them. We will sort of have a little think about them, say, is this realistic? I had a client recently that thought his HMO in Birmingham was worth like 780 grand. Like, it's just not. It's not, mate. And it's not going to get valued as that. So what is the point of actually, putting in an application for a remortgage? Because it's not going to happen. So you're right. Having the right people around, being the conductor of the orchestra is really, really important. And do you know what was great? This same presentation from last week, what she did was she kind of finished up with something I'm a massive fan of, which was a company organisational chart, of all the people that worked for her in this property business. And it always amazes me when I have to kind of explain the concept to potential new clients of, you're running a business here. So what does businesses need? Systems and processes and people. And if you think that you can get away with not having those, then you've lost before you've even started. Especially if you are going to be looking at, HMO almost, SA definitely is what I would almost call like a hospitality business. But HMO almost is as well, because you are, it's multiple people in a property. It's more than just renting the property out. There's other things to consider. There's, are you going to stick Netflix in their rooms? You've got the internet stuff that you need to sort out. You need to create plug in and play living accommodation for people just to come in and just be ready straight away. You rent a house out to somebody, a family, they sort the phone line out, they sort their council tax out, all that kind of stuff. You do this, there's a lot of moving parts, and having and building a team that knows how to do all of that means that your ability to scale your portfolio suddenly becomes a hell of a lot easier, because what you're then not concerned about as well is your own capacity. Your own capacity, your job within the business really should just be to find or know where to find or who's going to find you those deals and figure out how you're going to pay for them. Everything else really should be taken care of. You've got somebody that helps you with the planning in terms of making sure that your PD application goes through, and then your subsequent planning applications potentially. You've got your team in place to do any work. You see them as well. A lot of HMOs, you've got one owner and they'll own 20 of them, and they all look the same. Because they've just got the same kitchen, same
one feature wall, same colour.
and why not? And number one, it's kind of almost like the brand becomes their brand, but also it's easy to go and rinse and repeat and just do it again. And all that goes all the way through to the aftercare as well. Having people in place that can deal with letting the rooms, dealing with moans and complaints and whatnot from the tenants. If there's any damage, making sure that maintenance is done. A lot of this stuff, you will oversee it, but you can build a company of people that can do it. And this particular investor, she outsourced half of her staff to the Philippines. That they're not customer facing. They're not tenant facing. Therefore, it doesn't really matter whether whether when you get them on the phone, their English is absolutely perfect. Although it probably is.
It's really good.
Probably better than ours. So there's just so much, and I think this is the thing, is that people are getting put off by HMO because it's not as good as it used to be because of a lot of the change in regulation, taxation, the council tax stuff, all that sort of jazz. But then, compare it to the rest of the market still. So you're gonna shy away from it because there's been changes. Because it's not as good as it used to be, but it's still a hell of a lot better than buy to let and some other strategies.
And I'm finding that with property investors now, it's trying to educate them in living in the now. I've just had a conversation with a client where they're concerned about what the rates were, and they're sort of clinging on to that, and they're thinking, but what if it goes back down to that? I'm like, well, what if it goes back up to what it was in September? It's like people are worried about spending money to make money, and as a property investor, sometimes you've got to grasp that and realise you have got to spend money to make money. But the changes, that's part of the deal. And if you want to create safe homes and make their money in the right way, then that's just something that you've got to it comes with the territory of being a property investor.
Absolutely. No, it does. And look, we'll do a few more of these types of just fireside chats, I think they're called, where we can just sit here and just talk about these different strategies, and we're lucky because we get to see these on a daily basis. But look, if you do aspire to be an HMO investor, or you want to get into HMO and you want to have a chat with either one of us, we'll make sure that our contact details are in all the notes, whether you're listening to this on the podcast or whether you're watching this on YouTube. You'll be able to find both mine and Shanelle's contact details to get in touch. And we're happy to help anyone, aren't we?
We are indeed.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Shanelle. Cheers for coming. You can go home now.
Cheers.